So my name is Sun, aka The Real Sun. I'm a poet and an artist. And yeah, like Abdi was just saying about how like his experiences traveling and stuff. And it's so true that when you go to other places to explore, how people exist and how people live and how people think, that's different from where you're from and what you're used to. Like, it's such a gift because you get to experience so much, and it opens up something inside of you that you didn't really know was there before a lot of the time. And I find that those are experiences that I've also had. I recently traveled part of a exchange program called Ship for World Youth, and so I went to Japan, Singapore, India, Sri Lanka, back to Singapore and back to Japan over a span of like 7 weeks on this boat, and just the experiences that I had there was amazing, and it just opened my eyes to a lot of things about who I was, and just remembering who I was, and just connecting with people on such a deep level. I think for me, in terms of my identity, these sorts of experiences kind of really help to define me as a person, show me and teach me a lot about myself. As a person, you learn so much. But my identity, I would identify myself as an artist. I would identify myself as a revolutionary. I would identify myself as someone who's in the community working towards making positive change. And I would identify myself, as a woman, as an Asian woman, as, someone.
How do you define identity?
How do I define identity? I define identity as something that defines who you are. Identity can be chosen.
Would you consider gender an identity?
Yeah.
Rather than sex, because you're born with sex?
Yes, gender would be an identity. I want to get to know more. That's part of your identity, right? Identity is very complex and very layered, and there's many kind of certain identities that are fixed, like like being a woman or being of a certain race or these sorts of things. But there's also like identities that are more fluid, right? That are kind of sometimes a choice, like identifying yourself as an artist, or identifying yourself as an athlete, or identifying yourself as, someone who does community work, or these sorts of things. These are choices that we make.
I remember when I was saying I wanted to become an engineer or whatever, me choosing to become an engineer is an identity in itself, right? Mm-hmm. I could have chose to be whatever I wanted to be, mm-hmm. But like I'm actually doing it for the money though, because I want to be balling, well, in a legit way.
Yeah, I think like it's good to aspire towards success, and it's good to aspire towards prosperity. But I think like one of the things that I learned on my trip is the need to redefine the word prosperity and the idea of prosperity. I think a lot of us just lock down this idea of prosperity just on how much money you have and how much like material success you have. But I think in order to have true prosperity, you need to also include how happy you are as a person, how satisfied you are with your life beyond your material success, right? Because I also see people, and I've met people and been around a lot of people that have that material success, that have like the access to whatever they want. They can hop on a plane right now and go anywhere they want in the world because they have that level of material. But they're truly unhappy within themselves, and they just feel really empty, and I think as people who, don't have a lot, and never had a lot, you look towards having those material things as your gateway to happiness, because a lot of our problems come from not having enough. But once you get there, you realize people are miserable everywhere. And it doesn't matter how much money you have. After a certain point, after that point where you have enough to kind of sustain yourself, it becomes really about, like, you know, do you have love in your life? Do you have family that can hold you down? Do you have real people around you that are there for you, that are going to support you in real ways? You know, and are you satisfied with what you're doing? Like, you may go into engineering and realize that you really don't like engineering, right? Or you could go into being a doctor and study being a doctor, or you can study being a lawyer, or any of these things, and then you get into the actual work of it, and you're just dredging away the 9 to 5 just for the dollar. But that's a lot of your day and your time to put into something that you don't like to do just for money, you know? And then there's like this piece of you that just is left unsatisfied, and so you try to fill it with cars, and you try to fill it with the trips, and you try to fill it with the clothes and everything. Yeah, but that can't be filled. That void can't be filled with those things, you know.
They say the richest people in the world are probably the most saddest people in the world.
Yeah, it's true, because they've just bought into that whole idea of like material wealth is like what you need to be happy. And really and truly is like, that's not true.
The people who don't have much are happier than people who do have much.
That's what I saw. Yeah. And that's what I've been seeing. Like, I went to India and I went to this village, and like, people didn't have proper shoes, and you know, but you could see there was so much love. Like, the whole village came out and like greeted us and like gave us so much love, and it was so genuine. You're not going to see that here.
There was a school that we went to when we first touched in Washington. Subliminal was with us, and there's a school that we went to called a black charter school, pretty much, right? And their school hours would be from 8:30 to 5:30. So they're not in school till like regular time like we are. They're in school a lot more than us, and the reason why they actually all come to the school is because they don't have nothing to do in the hood.
Right.
Like, they rather spend their time together at school learning and being together as a group, because they're more happier than being like in the hood doing nothing, you know?
Yeah.
They come to the school because they have nothing better to do, whereas we run away from the school. We don't want to be in school, you know?
Yeah.
They find, I don't know, like, it's just more, they're poorer than us, and they take stuff more serious than us, and they're more happier than us. Like, they were in the gym when Subliminal was in the crowd, and I never seen a livelier crowd than that in my life.
Yeah.
And when Subliminal came to Westview, like, the crowd was just like, he had to talk to the crowd, he had to tell them, you know, be quiet and stuff like that.
Yeah,
whereas these little kids that he's talking to, the crowd was so live, like, they loved him.
Yeah.
Like, little stuff like that.
It's just that genuine love and that genuine sense of community that you don't get in places, you don't get everywhere, you know what I mean? And especially in places where people are kind of really about themselves and really about, you know, I'm going to be the top, you know, I'm going to be the top dog, I'm going to, you know, be better than everybody. That mentality doesn't progress us towards anything. It actually progresses us, if anything, towards like more negativity and towards more violence, towards more, you know, just cutting each other down, and you're not going to have, you know, a successful life that way.
No, they need their video shot, because they didn't have the little camera that everybody else is working with. All right. So give them.
So, anyways, yeah, that's me. I'm done.